Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Peter Higgins. You can find me at Conkers3 on Twitter. I'm here this morning at the Master Investor Show, and I've got the privilege and pleasure to speak with the UK billionaire investor, entrepreneur, philanthropist and futurist, Jim Mellon, at the Master Investor Show this morning. Jim, last time we spoke, we finished off talking about your book, which was just about to be released, and then it was released October of 2017. We want to catch up with you then, because one of the last things you said was, no one makes money writing books other than J.K. Rowling, if you recall that. But I'm of a view that given the book's sales and the journey of Juvenescence, that the investments are doing quite well for you.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a good year. I mean, people have generally had a good year because of this money printing and excess credit creation. I think a lot of it's just hot air, to be quite honest. But of course, Juvenescence has caught a particular wave, because the stuff that can keep you and me alive to 110 or 120 potentially is actually in trials today. So this is not science fiction. For the first time ever, this is a possibility that's going to happen. So in terms of the book, all the proceeds have gone to longevity charities, and we've been supporting a number of those. And it's sold very well, in contrast to my previous books, which are piled up in various warehouses and available for nothing if you want them. This one is sold out and it's been reprinted, so I'm very happy about that. And we're actually going to produce a new edition in May or June, which I've almost finished writing now. So yeah, that's super exciting. And then, of course, my partners and I, who've been working together in biotech for a long time, created a new company called Juvenescence around the same time. And we've raised it's a company, it's not a fund, we've raised about $150 million US, which is an astonishingly large amount for a startup venture capital studio, really. And we've made some wonderful investments, hired great people. Greg Beatty is the CEO, I'm the chairman, and Dec Dugan, who is a magnificent human being, is the chief medical officer. And the company that we started 4 years ago, the same team, which we invested $3 million in for 54%, is now worth $2.5 billion on the New York Stock Exchange. So we have very high hopes for Juvenescence. It's not available to retail investors yet, but we hope to take it public sometime in the next year or so.
Yeah, because I was looking at some of the articles that are out there, and Dr. Alex Sakuramiya,
I can never pronounce it. Sakuramiya.
Yeah, Professor Alex was saying potentially going to IPO at some point soon. So that could be quite interesting.
Yeah, well, Alex has got a different company, but we are a big investor in his company. That's called In Silico Medicine. Yeah. It's here at the Master Investor.
It is, yeah.
It takes a picture and tells you how old you are biologically. It's called Young AI. Anyway, Alex is probably going to take his company public ahead of us.
Right.
And we're very happy with what he's been getting up to in terms of developing novel compounds using artificial intelligence.
Okay. So within the Juvenescence portfolio, you've invested in quite a large sphere of AI, discovery, drug discovery, aging, sort of
stem
cells. Could you just talk to us about some of those, please?
Yeah, okay, so there are a few things that are going to keep us alive longer and in better health, most importantly in better health, because you don't want to be really old and infirm for 20 or 30 years extra. You want to be robust for those extra years. So one is small molecule drugs, and there are quite a few in development now, including by ours. And these are drugs to, for instance, remove senescent cells from your body. I think you know what they are. Cause a lot of inflammation for old people. That's in close proximity, I think, to commercialization in the next few years. Then there's organ regeneration, and as an example, one of our companies will be in sick patients in the first quarter of next year to regenerate the liver. And what they do is they take a piece of someone else's liver, a dead person's liver, just a small piece, and they insert it into a lymph node. And the idea is that a brand new liver grows in one of your lymph nodes. And you've got plenty of lymph nodes. We've each got 500 or 600. Now, you might say that's science fiction, but the FDA is allowing it to go into sick patients because it's been trialed in about 600 animals, including dogs and pigs, and every single one of the trials has been successful. There hasn't been one single failure. So we're super excited about that, because if you can regrow the liver, you might be able to regrow the kidney, the pancreas, of people there's so many people with failing organs around the world, and that's just astonishing, right? Yeah. And then the stem cells, right? Everyone's heard about stem cells. They're coming into their own now. We bought 46% of a now public company called Ajax. They're here at the Master Investor Show. They're really worth looking at. Mike West is one of the great innovators in science. He has 200 patents to his name. And they are working on tissue regeneration and other aspects of aging using stem cells. So we're very excited about that. And then you've got, of course, ultimately gene therapy, which is the editing of our genomes, CRISPR-Cas9 was discovered about 7 years ago. It's been commercializing very quickly. Ultimately, you and I will have our in vivo, in other words, as live human beings, have the negative genes in our bodies that cause the pathways of aging and infirmity adjusted by using CRISPR-Cas9. So this is a wonderful time to be alive. All you have to do is to stay on that healthy bridge. You know what. I mean, Evil was just on TV talking about how he drinks 4 bottles of wine a day. That's probably a little bit too much. One's enough, all right? No smoking, a bit of exercise, eat healthily. You can do that, you can stay alive. Of course you can, Peter. I know I can as well. Then we're going to be living to 110 or 120 or perhaps even beyond. So super exciting time to be alive. So that's one thing. And I'm also going to talk today about the meatless future. This is my second meta trend. You might say meta trend. And this is about growing animal proteins in labs as opposed to on farms. And this is going to be a reality in the very near future. It's going to revolutionize agriculture. And of course, we have a company which Anthony Chow is the managing director of called Agronomics, which will be available to the public quite soon as a listed vehicle.
That's quite important because of the amount of water that's used to rear animals and then to produce the meat as well.
Absolutely, completely right. And the emissions from the animals, all right? And the use of antibiotics and the cruelty and slaughter and blah, blah, blah that goes along with it. If we can avoid all that, and we can, it's coming now, then how exciting is that? And I've invented something, it's the only thing I've ever invented, called Newslaw. Everyone's familiar with Moore's Law, the trajectory of semiconductor prices. This is Newslaw. As more money comes into the space, as it becomes more efficient, the price of this lab-grown beef will come down.
Fantastic news for everyone concerned.
It is. I don't eat meat anyway, so it'd be great if I could eat a burger that's not been cruelly produced or environmentally suspect.
Excellent. Now, Jim, I'm an investor in Fast Forward Innovations, and I've got a few people that follow me on Twitter that want to know what's happening with it. It's gone a long way. It's invested in lots of different companies. And looking for the next stage. You've got some gems in the portfolio, and people are wondering when some of the realisation going to be coming forward with that. So I'd love to hear a bit more about.
Well, I can't obviously speak to. I'm a non-executive director. I'm very careful about what I say about public companies, especially if there's news that's pending or whatever. So what I would say is that Lorne Aveney is a superb human being. He has made us lots of money already in Nuvera, as you know.
Absolutely.
Right, and as a result, some shares were bought back, which of course improves the benefit for us. And I would just say watch this space. The guy's a dynamo, and I'm very happy to be a major backer of that company.
I wanted to ask you about the CBD angle regarding all the different aspects about people investing in that space. There seems to be lots of large corporate entities and also ex-Fortune 100 types getting into that sort of field now, covering from candles to makeup to drinks to beers.
Well, it's going to be huge, isn't it? So I think that cannabis production is going to be a very commoditized business. This is my own view, because it doesn't make sense to grow it in Europe because obviously we don't have the weather for it. And you have to therefore grow it using artificial energy, or it's not very efficient. The cost is high. So Latin America is probably going to be the best place to grow cannabis, pure strain cannabis. But in terms of all the products around it and the machinery to generate those products, that's where the interest lies. And I know that Lorne's invested for us in a couple of very interesting companies in that area.
So my last question to you is this. Every single person who's an investor has an idea as to what is deemed to be success. You're a serial investor, you've done it so successfully so many times. What and how do you define success regarding a startup?
Right, okay, well I think the first thing to be is to be curious. You need to read all the time. You need to watch people like you all the time. You have to have an open mind as to what this world is changing so quickly, as to what's interesting, what's a mega trend that you could latch onto. Very important that you do that. So curious is number one. Adaptability is number two. You have to be adaptable. You can't just stick with the same old thing and think it's going to last forever. It doesn't. All right. At some point, the cannabis boom will fizzle out, as an example, because there'll be too many companies pursuing it, and the good companies will be snaffled up by, as you rightly point out, the big, like the tobacco companies or beer or whatever. And then the last thing is application. You cannot get rich by not working. You really have to work at it. Don't just read the newspaper and think you know something. You have to drill down. That's why you are serving a very valuable purpose, why Master Investor is serving a valuable purpose, to educate investors. The professionals have the edge because they have all the information, but why don't we have the information? And that's what we're seeking to provide for the general investor.
All right. Thank you ever so much. An absolute
pleasure.
Lovely to see you.
And I'll see you next year.
Take care.
Thanks,
God
Peter.
bless.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys.